What's good, people of the cardboard, and welcome back to Fun Decks. So we just got some new assault mode support announced for Burst Protocol. This is cool. Burst Protocol seems to be a really good legacy support set for a lot of different archetypes. And assault mode's one that I really didn't expect to, you know, see a whole lot from. So this is cool. I was playing during this year when this first came out, so a lot of nostalgia for me. Now, unfortunately, I did a blind react to this previously, but there was some issue with the video, so it didn't work. And it wasn't a huge fan of it anyway. So I decided to do this as a slightly different type of video than what I normally do, where I actually went and looked up the existing assault mode support because I do think that gives a lot of good context about how good these new cards are and what they do. So if this is something you think would be more enjoyable to watch than just me blind reacting, give a like to this video and maybe leave a comment down below. And subscribe, why not? It doesn't hurt. Anyway, so let's start with a recap of where Assault Mode is, because they've gone like a few waves of support. First waves came out like over a decade ago, and they were just this terrible deck focusing around summoning synchro monsters and then tributing them with Assault Mode Activate to summon main deck versions of them. And there's, I think, currently, not counting the new ones, there are just notes 6 names, and these 4 are just completely worthless. The only one that ever saw any type of play was Stardust Assault Mode Dragon. So Stardust Dragon was a little different than normal Stardust, where if you're willing to go through this hoop and tribute the Stardust, you could get an Omni Negate, where it tributes itself to negate activations of any effect, and it comes back during the end phase, just like normal Stardust does. So this is pretty cool, and they kind of, like, some people tried to build a deck around it. They did make one new support card that was for TGs. This was weird. This came out, I think, a few years ago, and it's actually pretty powerful. So its effect is that if your opponent would special summon, you can negate the activation and then banish that monster. Sorry, negate the summon and banish that monster and all special monsters your opponent controls. So pretty nice. I mean, obviously your opponent's going to have to kind of force you into it and play into it, but all these monsters have an effect that when they are destroyed, you can summon the synchro monsters from the graveyard. And this one in particular says that you can summon it negating or ignoring its summoning conditions. And that's nice because the original TG Halberd Cannon does say that it can't be special summoned except by synchro summon. So it was a weird one, or is a weird one, because it actually can survive TV or TG monsters when it's destroyed or when it's sent to the graveyard. But it could never revive itself because of that wording. But it actually has its own usefulness, which is that it has its own negate a summon effect. So theoretically, if you could make this and tribute it with assault mode to go into the assault mode version, you get a negate and banish for all special summon monsters your opponent, or sorry, negate, summon, and banish all special monsters your opponent controlled. And then you would float into the original Habercam, which is just a negate of additional summon. So not bad. The only problem is that this card, Halbercam, requires a tuner synchro monster and 2 or more non-tuner synchro monsters. So this was just kind of not on the cards. But we'll see if the new cards can help this. That's kind of a hint. All right, and this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 12. Interesting. All right. But then getting into Assault Mode as an engine. This was actually pretty interesting because they released this card called Psy Reflector. And just as a little hint, the Assault Mode cards decided to do the classic thing where rather than make a archetype by name, because there's too many Assault cards in the game, instead they decide to make it so that they support cards that list Assault Mode Activate in their text. Just FYI. But anyway, Psy Reflector has a effect that on summon you add a Assault Mode Activate or a card that mentions it to your hand, and then you can reveal Assault Mode Activate in your hand and target a monster in your graveyard that mentions Assault Mode Activate, and you can special summon it, and then you can increase its level by up to 4. So the classic combo was that you would typically either normal special summon this, you can use E-Tele for this because Psy Reflector is a level 1 psychic, which is pretty big. You then add Assault Beast, discard Assault Beast using its effect to add the Assault Mode Activate. And then you can use Side Reflector's effect, or secondary effect, revealing the Assault Activate in your hand, summon back the Assault Beast, and you can modulate its level. And so from this, you can make any Synchro monster from 5, and then because you can increase the summon monster by up to 4, you can make it an 8 or up to an 8, and so 9. So any Synchro monster from 5 to 9 is available because, of course, Side Reflector is a tuner itself. So this was kind of smashed in any deck that needed to summon a Synchro monster within that level or range. It has no lock, and having 6 cards that does that is pretty nice, although it comes with a brick, but it's not even a hard garnet per se, because you could still use Side Reflector. You could even just not use its on summon effect, but you could use it to add Assault Mode Activate if you play multiple copies or whatever. But these 2 cards were kind of garnets you had to play for that. They also have their own, I was going to say Rescue Cat, but it's, oh, Laurie, I'm blanking on the analogy. But basically, you contribute this card to special summon any monster from your hand or deck that mentions Assault Mode Activate, but you are locked into Synchro. So all the other cards don't lock you. This is the only one that does, Sentinel. And then it has an additional effect, which is that you can target one monster you control, reveal Synchro, and the monster you target gains that Synchro monster's type and attribute. And that Synchro monster you just reveal from your extra deck. So theoretically, you could use this to make any good but annoying card the Synchro summon, like, for example, what's it called? Naturia Beast or Barkion, right? But Naturia Beast is the big one. Theoretically, you can normal summon this, tribute it off to summon the Side Reflector. Side Reflector, you don't even need Assault Beast. You can just go straight for Assault Mode Activate, and then revive back the Sentinel and use its ability to modulate Side Reflector into an Earth, and then you can synchro these 2 into Naturia Beast. That's an option, which I think could be interesting to pursue. But regardless, I think that gives a good, background on where they're at. There are a ton of Assault Mode cards that just are complete crap. They just aren't good. And the big thing is that the Assault Mode monsters are bricks. You can't do anything with them. So hopefully they find a way of circumventing this in the new cards. We'll see. Anyway, so we have, looking at the new cards, we have Junk Warrior Assault Mode. This is pretty cool. I do like that they're, supporting cards. But anyway, so it's attack 20, defense 18. Can't be normal summon or set. Must be special summon with a summon activate. Classic. So it gains 1,000 attack for each summon monster you control. So baseline, it comes out at 3,800, which is nothing to scoff at. And then if it bows a monster, any damage inflicts is doubled. It's unaffected by your opponent's activated monster effects. It's cool. So this is just a big towers monster, which is nice. And then if this is destroyed, you can target one Drunk Warrior in your graveyard, return to the extra, then you can special summon it. And this is Trio Synchro. So this is cool because this is different than all the other warriors that just try to directly summon them back from the graveyard. I will say this comes up a little bit later in some of the support they release, but it's not that amazing. It's basically just the towers, and it's cute, but I was really hoping they would, give it an effect that you use it, that this card in your hand, for example, could do something with. And that leads me to the next one. So we have Assault Mode Crimson Blazer, another retro card. This one was really cool to see. So it's a level 10 Fire Warrior, attack 33, defense 31. Same thing, can't be normal summon set, and must be summoned by Assault Mode Activate. So you can reveal this card in your hand and add Assault Mode Activate or one card mention it from your deck to your hand, then shuffle this card into the deck. So this is perfect. This is exactly what you want from. This is kind of what they did with the Metal Morph monsters, giving all of the main deck brick boss monsters methods of shuffling the back and usefulness. And so this is great. This basically, if you want to think of an Assault Mode deck, this is 3 more copies of Rhoda. That's huge. And then your opponent cannot activate the effect of level 5 or higher monsters special from the extract. This is cool. This is kind of what Crimson Player was doing. It was a little different. They just couldn't summon level 5 or higher monsters in general. So this is slightly worse, which is interesting. But it's fine. And then if it's destroyed, you can special summon Crimson Player from graveyard. So this is the OG text. So it's odd is that I love this first effect. I think it's really great that they're giving the deck. I think that's almost a special 3 of, but this is like a very meh effect because you really have to be facing like a very niche deck that hits this. Like Draco Tail, this is pretty cool, but it's not even that great because Draco Tail can just pop this using one of their main, I forget which one of the main deck dragon monsters could pop it. And yeah, it prevents them from activating the Draco Tail on summon or whatever, but like the fusion monster on summon, but it's really just not that big of a deal. If it prevented them from summoning then it'd be fine. So it's weird. This is one of the most mid on field effects, but it has the best in hand effect. I wish they just honestly gave us one of these and just combine, give him a towers that has a search effect. That would be cool and worthwhile. But all right. Then we have Assault Lich. So this is a level 4 dark zombie tuner, attack 15, defense 0. And you can only use the first and third effects of this card's name once per turn. So this is a normal special summon. You can special summon one monster that mentions Assault would activate, or one level 4 or lower zombie monster from graveyard. I like this. I really think it's cute that they're giving this monster dual application for Assault mode. But just, as I think this might be the only one that's seeing play, because it just supports zombies. And, this being a method for zombies to theoretically you summon this and then summon another one from your graveyard is not bad. That's actually really awesome. And zombies don't necessarily have that. And it sets up a lot of synchro play. So this is the big thing that, of course, this can set up synchros on its own. But let's keep reading. So this card you control would be used as a synchro material. You can treat it as a non-tuner. That's also nice. In case you, for example, want to bring this back off a Side Reflector, that it wouldn't matter at all. It's level. And then if this is sent to graveyard at synchro material, you can add one Assault Slash or Assault Counter from your deck to your hand. Now, this is part of the reason why I wanted to make a video like this, because I didn't know what these cards did. I thought they were going to be later revealed new cards. They aren't. They're old cards, and they're kind of mid. All right, let's get into Assault Slash because it's the worst one. So if you control an Assault Mode monster, you can destroy all face-up monsters in the field. This is the big Assault Mode monsters, not any of these little ones like Assault, Sentinel, or whatever. That's partially why I think they don't want to give the little ones their own archetype. So yeah, it's just a torrential tribute, but more selective when you can activate, and it would pop your card because none of these have protection effects. So that's in that. But then there's Assault Counter. This one has some credence to it. So when you're activating only when you control some monster, negate the activation of a spell trap card or affect monster's effect and destroy. So it doesn't negate spell trap effects per se, just the cards activation, but it's still pretty good. It's still an omni-negate, which is really nice, and having it be searchable by Assault Lich is pretty cool. And I think maybe it could work its way as a special one of, just as something you can search out now, which is pretty cool. I think. Yeah, so I think interesting at where this card fits in. It's odd because if you look at it, it's kind of just like a worse Side Reflector in a way, which is able to revive, Assault, or cards that list Assault mode activate anyway. But I do think there's some applications for it just because it does give you that secondary search, which is pretty nice. So theoretically, you could just go Sentinel. I believe Sentinel is hard once per turn. But you go Sentinel, tribute off, summon Assault Lich, bring back the Sentinel, and then go for an 8 if you want. And then that could, of course, search you Assault Slash or Assault Counter. And we'll talk about why you might want to go into an 8 in a second. But I think this is pretty cool, just gain a search. And, I do think, again, this has a lot of applications for zombies. It's just, it's cool that the Konami Society, give them some support at the same time. I love that when you get branching pathways. So let's go into this. This is a level 8 synchro spellcaster called Nightwing Priestess. This is a reference to Nightwing Sorceress, so slightly different. Attack 25, defense 25. And so it takes one tuner and one more non-tuners. So you can only use the first and second effects of this card's name once per turn. If this is a special summon, you can set an Assault mode, activate from your hand, deck, or graveyard, and it can be activated this turn. This is big because before you were having to use Nightwing Sorceress, which only let you activate Assault mode activate when it was on the field. It was just a terrible monster to summon. You never would. So you never saw any play. So having that just on a synchro monster is great, and it searches you the Assault mode activate, which is cool. Personally, I would wish it just added it to your hand because like cards like, for example, Side Reflector requires you to reveal one in hand, so it wouldn't work with Nightwing Priestess, but that's fine. And so you can discard one card, add your hand special summon one monster from your deck that mentions a summon activate. Also, you cannot special summon for the rest of the turn except synchro monsters. So this one's huge. So because this basically is an Assault Sentinel effect per se, it's very similar. So this means that you could go use it on summon effect, set the Assault mode activate, right? And then go discard, summon Side Reflector, use Side Reflector to search either. You could go Assault Beast if you want, or just search Assault mode activate directly if you don't want to play, if you want to shave down on bricks. And then use its effect to revive back whatever you used to make this material. So let's say you were doing that Sentinel play into Assault Lich I mentioned before, right, to summon this. You can then use this effect to summon back the Assault Sentinel, and then modulate its level, and then go for a synchro play. And now you can actually use that Assault Mode Activate um, that turn to tribute off and summon whatever from the extract, which is pretty cool. I think that's really nifty. Yeah. But you can also do some other tricky stuff, which I'll get into in a second. So lastly, they give a field spell. Of course they did. So you can only activate one card. So with this card, one copy of this card per turn, and you can only use the third effect of this card's name once per turn. So this is Dual Evolution Assault Zone. So when this card resolves, you can add one monster from your deck or graveyard to your hand that mentions Assault Mode Activate. Get into that in a second. So Assault Mode monsters cannot be destroyed by battle or your opponent's effects the turn they're special summon. So this is cute. I mean, it's nice. It gives them that protection. Is silly to me that Assault Slash, which is like a searchable card now, still destroys the monster regardless if it's the turn of a summon or not, because of course it only prevents your opponent's effects from destroying your summon. So that's fine. And then 3, big one, you can pay 2k. Once this turn, you can activate Assault Mode Activate by tributing a Synchro monster in the extra deck. All right. So what's interesting about this third effect, I think is nifty, is that obviously Assault Halberd Cannon is one of the best monsters to go into, but its summon conditions for its actual Synchro monster variant was so restrictive, it was just never viable. This lets you bypass that, which is pretty cool. I would need to double check, and I wish I knew this, the rulings for how this would work, though, in terms of the summoning back effect. Summoning the Synchro monster from the graveyard, ignoring summon conditions, I'm not positive still works. I've heard that like it still needs to be properly summoned, Synchro summoned to revive it back. Not sure about that, but I just, even if that is the case, gain a summon, negate, and banish your opponent's all special monsters is pretty cool. So the trick, though, is you need to be able to activate Assault Mode Activate in your turn. So if you can't get to your Synchro 8, this card, third effect, is pointless, which is kind of bad, right? I am very frustrated by it because I wish this wasn't an activated effect. It is nice that it's a blanket thing after the fact or whatever. So if you activate this early in your turn and then go set Assault Mode Activate, it's fine. I just think there's no way this ever really needed to be something you activate. It could just been a continuous, you can pay 2,000 and tribute a Synchro monster from your extra deck instead for Assault Mode Activate. That would have been perfectly fair. This just really hurts the deck a lot. But kind of tying it all together and think, at least where I think this deck is supposed to start with, is I think it's supposed to go Assault Sentinel, tribute it off to summon your Lich. Lich, summon back the Sentinel, and then Synchro off for your new 8. Now that lets you search out your Assault Slash, which is just an Omni negate. Pretty good. On summon, your new Synchro 8 lets you go and set Assault Mode Activate. It can be activated this turn. And then you can discard one card, special summon your Psi Reflector, right? Because it mentions Assault Mode Activate. A Psi Reflector on summon can add any card. So although the Synchro 8 can only add monsters for some reason, this can add any card. You can use this to add your add your field spell, and field spell searches your Assault Beast. Discard that to add Assault Mode Activate. So now you have one Assault Mode Activate set and then one in your hand. You can then go use the one in hand to reveal for Psi Reflector. Summon out either Assault Sentinel or Assault Beast, doesn't matter. Go into a Synchro 8, so go for your Stardust Dragon, for example, by modulating the level of Assault Sentinel or Assault Beast to 7, right? Synchro that off. And then set your copy of Assault Mode Activate. You can then use, because you still have this level 8 monster here too, you can then use the copy of Assault Mode Activate that you set off its effect to go into Halberd Cannon, because you have by paying 2k for the field spell before this. So now theoretically how your M board would look, right, just based off of this, and this might not be the most ideal combo, but fine, is that you'd end up with a Halberd Cannon, a Stardust Dragon with a Assault Mode Activate set, and the new Synchro 8 monster kind of chilling. And then in your back row, you have Assault Counter and another Assault Mode Activate. So as soon as your opponent's turn starts, you contribute off your Stardust Dragon to go into the assault mode version of it. And so now you have one Omni Negate, one Negate and Banish, all summons your opponent controls, a secondary counter trap Omni Negate, right? And then just this 25/25 monster that's chilling there. That's just one combo. It's cool. 3 interruptions is nifty. My big issue with all of this, right? I think that sounds fun in theory. My big issue with all of this is that it's still so restrictive. 3 interruptions is not that much. Now, yeah, counter trap is a great interruption to have for sure because you can stop almost anything with it. And backing that by monster-based Omni Negates and like board clears is also good. But it just doesn't feel like that much. I mean, you can definitely threaten the Halberd Cannon pretty easily, right? Also, all of this can be disrupted by a single hand trap. You Ash the Sentinel, that's not that big of a deal, right? Like the entire turn is dead, right? You're just left, like, I don't know, chilling. And any hand trap can stop this. And same thing, you have to search multiple times. So Droll hurts you. So if you, a combo that ends up with 3 forms of interruption that I'll admit are very powerful, 3 forms of interruption, right? But only 3, and can be stopped by Ash, Imperm, Droll, any other hand trap that has any playability. It's just not worth it. I don't know. My main, I'm also frustrated that they had to make this so convoluted. In that combo I talked about, I had to play still tons of bricks, Like, and that's not even talking about the new cards they make. Like, yeah, it's consistent as heck because they gave a new rota. The field spell searches on activation. And like, there's a lot of cool things you can do with that. But I just don't understand why. I still have to probably play Assault Beast through this. Assault Mode Activate itself is a brick that doesn't really do anything. Even with the field spell, if you use it, like, I think it could have been perfectly fine. Again, just to make this a continuous effect. And without it being one, like, when I first read it, I assumed it was. And I thought, oh, okay, that'll be fine. You can just activate this, search Assault Mode Beast or the new Crimson Blader, and then use it during your opponent's turn to tag it and do it. But it doesn't work like that. You need to be able to activate Assault Mode the turn it's set. So it's a deck that feels great, I think, if it works and things are actually like going well. But if your opponent interrupts you at all, it just completely crumbles. It's not worth it. I also am very bugged that they printed the Junk Warrior is completely useless, right? Although it has a cool Towers-like effect, or it's only against monster effects. So any board wipes like Lightning Storm or Regeki would clear it. And Crimson Blader, although it is a really cool hand trap, doesn't do anything. It just feels like they really honored the spirit of Assault Mode by making the monsters in your deck just objectively worse than the Synchro monsters. And it's just kind of crazy to me. Anyway, long story short, I think this deck is really interesting. And I think giving them tools to be a generic engine could work, right? I think, for example, having this be a Synchro 8 that can just kind of pop off and support your combos, having a field spell, having a new Rhoda that all kind of worked around this Side Reflector engine, I think decks could benefit from it. I think they might see some level of play, but I think we moved past Side Reflector. There's a reason why it hasn't seen a competitive play really in the past like 4 or 5 years, because playing these bricks for one Synchro monster is kind of mid. And most decks now, if they are Synchro decks, are expecting to have in-engine methods of summoning themselves. But hey, that's just my opinion. If you disagree, leave a comment down below. Let me know. And again, let me know if you like this more in-depth, more ranty version of discussing these reveals and kind of telling you why I'm disappointed by them. Anyway, that's all I got. So Fun Deck signing out. Bye.